Hi, good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday. You are watching Show It Live. My name is Liz. I'm part of the team here at Show It, and each week we produce this webcast. We bring on a different photographer or creative or small business owner, and we talk to them about their business and their passion. Each week we feature a different Show It-er, a member of our Show It user community, and we talk about some of the things that are coming up. And today is a really exciting Tuesday here at Show It because United is next week, and that's a huge event for us. We're so excited to meet so many of you that are going to come out here to Arizona to join us at the Fire Sky Resort and Conference Center starting next Sunday. And it's like Christmas around here because there are boxes coming in and showing up, and we can't wait spoil you and love on you and get to hug you and have so much fun with you. We've got an amazing lineup of speakers. And actually one of our speakers today is our guest, Rachel Brenke. She is the LawTog. She is thelawtog.com and bloglegally.com. And today we're going to be talking about blogging legally. But before we get to Rachel, I want to introduce you to one of our favorite show-it-ers. Her name is Caroline Jarvis. She is a wedding and lifestyle photographer from the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and she has just absolutely gorgeous work. It's so much fun to look through her website, which is carolinejarvis.com, and this is a beautiful show-it site that Caroline has all of her gorgeous photos on. She's got a great About Me section and a really cool wedding experience section on her site. So if you have some time, go and check that out. It's carolinejarvis.com. Caroline, we absolutely love and adore you. I got to have a phone conversation with Caroline a couple of months ago, and she's so sweet. She's such a talented photographer, and we are so excited that this week she's our featured show-it-er of the week. So next week, we won't have an episode of Show It Live because we will be live down at the Fire Sky Resort and Conference Center having Show It United with some amazing photographers and creatives. We also have some fantastic partners that are come on board to help us celebrate creativity with these amazing attendees that are coming. Shoot.edit, White House Custom Color, Kiss Books, Chasing Lockets, Miller's, Photographers Edit, Tether Tools, Agree.com. So many great partners that are coming to be part of everything that's at United. And one of those partners actually is thelawtog.com. So Rachel Brenke is our guest today. And when Rachel was in law school, she also had a passion for photography. And so she has simultaneously built multiple businesses over the years between thelawtog.com, bloglegally.com, and her own photography business in which she specializes in glamour and commercial photography. We're so excited that Rachel can join us today and hopefully answer some of those questions that you have that come up when you're thinking about, am I doing the right thing for my business? Am I opening myself up to legal troubles, or am I kind of getting all of my ducks in order? So Rachel, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so glad that you could be here.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to talk to you guys this week and next week.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to hug you in person. We've never actually gotten to meet outside of Skype. We've spent some time together on Skype, but it'll be really fun to get to meet in person and to get to hear what you have to share with the United attendees. But today specifically, we wanted to talk about blogging. Because blogging, we've talked about this a lot at Show It. We think blogging is a really big part of your business. It's a great way to market your business, but there are some things that you should be doing to make sure that you are blogging legally, which always makes me think of the movie Legally Blonde. I think I'm going to have to go have a Reese Witherspoon moment tonight.
I'm normally blonde, but I check color for the winter. So normally that applies to me.
I love it. Me too. I have a few streaks here and there of the blonde. So Rachel, let's jump right into it. And you gave us some great slides, and you actually wanted to give a little legal disclaimer, which I think is really important because everyone checking in online, you're from a lot of different states, maybe even different countries. And if you want to, up in the chat, tell us where you are checking in from. And I think the chat is over here on the other side of Rachel. So type up and tell us where you're coming from. But go ahead and give the legal disclaimer, Rachel.
I just basically wanted to let you guys know that I am an American attorney, and so everything I talk about is United States law. Sometimes if I think of something, I'll be able to pull in a little bit of information about Canada, but the LawTog, we're actually working to expand and bring in lawyers from other countries to help provide you guys more information. But for now, all the questions today that you guys ask, if you try to keep it as general as possible, and all my answers are all for educational purposes. I'm not advising any of you guys specifically, but if you need further follow-up, y'all can reach out to me. We have a bunch of attorneys in various states that could help you guys, and we can point you to some other resources as well.
That is awesome. And before we jump in, give us a little bit of background on how, because it's funny how many photographers there are that are lawyers. Like I can think of multiple women who have gone to law school and then have followed this passion of being a photographer. How did that happen for you?
Yeah, I was already doing photography when I was in grad school. I was a business consultant before I did all of this, so I kind of married the two. But when I went to law school, that's what I always wanted to do. I actually intended to be a child sex crimes prosecutor, and that's something I still actively work with in the community, and eventually, maybe where life takes me, would like to do. But when I was going through law school, a lot of people are asking me, because I was doing the photography to help sustain myself at that point, financially, my family and so forth, that they're asking me all these legal questions that were photography. And I was like, oh my gosh, there is a huge need. There are a lot of photographers who were past lawyers. There's not many of us that are still actively practicing law and shooting at the same time. We're a rare breed out there. But it's funny because I'll get emails from people that are like, oh, I was a lawyer in my past life. And we like to have a little chit chat and chuckle about it. And it's great because they're photographers now and we have a lot in common on all fronts.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think it's such a great reminder that you can sort of kind of be like right brain and left brain at the same time, that you can be creative and then you can be super, super detailed about things, the way that sort of legal mind works. And one of the quick questions, we'll just jump in. I had a question about when I shoot guests at a wedding, can I legally blog those photos of them? I don't have model releases from them. It's in my contract that there's a model release for the bride and groom, but I never think about the wedding or dancing. And I try to be thoughtful about like not posting a picture up to pass that I wouldn't want of myself if I was dancing and having a crazy moment online. But what are the legalities with posting up pictures of people that you don't have model releases for?
Yeah, I'm going to mention that a little bit here when we get into the website stuff about having model releases. But typically, if you are in a public place, barring any specific laws in any states that are completely obscure, the general consensus is that if you are in a public place, you have no reasonable expectation of privacy. That's why when you go, Walmart, people of Walmart.com, you don't have any privacy expectations there. And the same thing is for weddings. But, like you said, you always have to be discerning and see, do I want to post this about someone? Would I want that done about me? And there's always the chance that you have that guest will be like, I didn't authorize you. Well, by law, you may be okay to blog it. And you kind of just have to weigh, is this image going to make or break this blog post for my client?
Right.
Is it really, what is the potential word of mouth, negative word of mouth versus the experience that it provides to my client?
So that's one of those website things. And we've got a slide we'll have JT put up where you kind of had three different sections that we were going to talk through today. So talk to us about website things, because I think this is important. Make sure we're crossing off the boxes, putting the check marks in there.
Yeah, for sure. The first thing I wanted to talk about was website things. Before we get any further, I did want to mention I have some tweetables for you guys that if you guys tweet, and this is specific to the Show It community, if you guys tweet during this webcast, I'm going to pick 3 people later on this evening, and each of y'all will get $150 to the shop to apply to any of the contracts, business guides, and forums that you need. And you can also pair that next week with a discount that I'm going to give out at United. So, good savings there. But when it comes to website stuff, and this is a tweetable, my major thing that I say to people is asking for forgiveness is the wrong way to go. You need to do it right the first time. And I think the problem is, and I see this a lot, this is bad legal advice. And this is a lot why the LawTog exists, because I see this in online forums. People saying, just do it and ask for permission later. That saying that it's easier to ask for forgiveness. But it's not when it comes to legal stuff, because you're going to end up not only potential negative word of mouth with your business, but you also, what are the legal ramifications? Are they going to pull you into court, or, are you going to get, what is the line? So let's jump right into the website stuff. And I'm going to kind of start off with the not so fun, but you guys are going to recognize some of the websites that I pulled in for examples. One of the very first things that every single one of you should have is a blog, which is kind of what we're talking about here today. And one of those things that your blog needs to have is the terms of use. Now, the whole idea with having a blog, to me, and this is my opinion, but I really do passionately believe that every single one of you needs to have an active blog. When I moved to blogging on a consistent basis, my marketing budget went extremely way down and my exposure went extremely way up. And it also added value to my clients. But in order to be able to provide that to clients, I need to do things the right way. Not just throwing their images up on the website, kind of like you talked about a second ago. We want to see, does this client have a model release, which we're going to talk about in a second? You know, can this guest go up here? Well, legally, probably, yeah. But not just throwing stuff up there, doing it strategic, but also supplementing with this legal stuff. And the very first thing is the terms of use. And if you guys look at any websites, you go to Amazon.com, you go to any of them, and I'm pulled up a couple examples for you guys to have a look at here in a minute. But you will see that this is embedded as a link in the footer of these websites. And the purpose of this is to put the people that are visiting, namely your clients, potential business partners, and so forth, putting them on notice of what the rules of the playroom are, what the rules of your blog are. And I've already given you guys a checklist right here of essentially what needs to be included. You need to identify who the site owner is. Super easy. That's you guys. You know, the age of use, the people need to be utilizing your website. This is really important if you are a glamour boudoir photographer. You probably don't want to have underage children on there. And some laws do require that this disclaimer is on there, especially for some foreign countries. I know they require that you also have other supports in place. That's beyond what we can talk about here. But when it comes to the age of the user of your blog or your website, you wanted to also talk about, and this is something that needs to go in your main contracts too, governing law and dispute resolution. What will happen if someone gets on your site and their contact information is stolen because you're hacked, which we're going to talk about, or you know, they submitted their credit card information, or for anything that had happened, what law is going to govern that? Well, you want to have control over where any legal claims may happen, and this is the first bullet of what's declared in terms of use. So just this one bullet alone helps to confine and narrow and inform the individuals using your blog of all this information. Because you want, if I'm in Virginia, which is where I live, I don't want to have to fly to Arizona unless I'm going to see you lovely people. I don't want to fly to Arizona in order to battle a legal claim. You know, I want to try to govern and do that in my state because it's going to cost me time, money, and energy.
Well, and I think this is really important to keep in mind that you may be out there watching this thinking, yeah, but I'm little. Like you know, I only shoot 10 weddings a year. I don't need to have this. My mom and my aunt and maybe my cousin every once in a while reads my blog. It doesn't matter how big or small your business is. Like a legal issue can take it off track really, really quickly and get you caught up in a battle you don't want to be in. And so no matter how large or small your blog is, this is really important.
Well, and I'm glad you brought that up, because actually the two examples that I have for how you guys can utilize this, I have Sue Bryce's site, and then I have another local photographer. Both are extremely successful in their own right, but you know, on other standards, one may be smaller, one may be larger, but they both have the terms of use. They both have done it properly. And this is something that's super simple and easy that you guys can get done when you get off the website, off the webcast today. Yes. So moving on to the next point, though, we want to talk about the purpose and function of the site. That sounds common sense. What is the purpose and function? Probably to display images, but it's a little bit more than that. It's also you're soliciting commercial activities. You're trying to gain business from other people. The next point is really important if you guys are taking payments. There's a whole variety of options on the web now of how to take payments, whether it's through PayPal, Square, or one of these management systems. 17 Hats, Pixify, ShootQ, and all of those, or people are using WordPress plugins. And so if you're utilizing any secured access and payment terms for your site, it needs to be included in the terms of use. You need to let people know what's going to happen with their personal information, which is also kind of a privacy policy, and that falls under the umbrella of terms of use. So if you guys hear those two terms, they typically are combined. Some sites break them out, but you could include them together. But the privacy policy, or the privacy when it comes to their personal information, because we're going to talk about email lists, super important that you want to try to protect your client's information, even if you're not taking payments on there. But another step of that would be, in some states, and I know overseas requires this, if you're utilizing cookies on your site, you have to have a notification on that. One of the places you need to include that is in the terms of use. United States, we don't have a requirement of that, but we also, all of us could use something what's called SSL, and it's the secured. My husband's going to kill me because he's cybersecurity, and he tells me what this means all the time. All I know is it makes the website secure in order for your clients to submit their payments properly and securely. However, in their information, you need to inform them what data is being taken, how you're tracking that, and how you're securing that. And this is where you're going to put that, is into the terms of use. Also, proprietary rights and usage. That's it, because people may submit content to your website, comments, and so forth. And that was also the last point. User site submissions. And the last one's kind of DMCA. This is going a little bit off the rails here, but DMCA stands for the Digital Millennium Copyright Act. So if you guys, and I've got a blog post on this on the TheLawTog you can check out, but if you are ever find your images being infringed upon and used elsewhere, you can utilize what's called a DMCA takedown notice. And so by me having DMCA information in my terms of use, it's giving people notice. So say I was infringing, it's giving the user of the site notice of where to direct that takedown notice so that I can comply with the law as well.
Okay. And that one comes up a lot where people will say, oh, I see someone is using my image either on their site and they're passing it off as their own image, or it's just a company who is sort of inadvertently started using someone else's image and they may not even realize that they're doing anything wrong. I think, you know, sometimes those things are done not with malice or will intent. They're just kind of accidents that people don't realize they can't be using it in that way. And so it's important to have all the housekeeping stuff done, even though it's not the most fun thing. So if you're out there in the chat, I would love to know, do you have a terms of use on your site? And if you don't, are you going to get one up in the next 24 hours? Because I think these are important.
I actually searched some other photographers to utilize as examples today, and they did not have it. And I was like, I have failed, you know, but that's okay. It's something that easily can be remedied, and it's probably not going to make or break your world right now. But it's something definitely to add to the checklist to do. And one thing I should have said from the very beginning, I'm talking about all these key things you need to have in like the terms of use and privacy policy and this DMCA takedown notice, which sounds so scary. But even myself as a lawyer, I don't feel like we should use legal tools to like bang over the head of our clients or our inquiries or other business owners. I always try to take a step back and we need to look at it. We talked about discernment earlier when we were with the guest at the wedding, and like how you wanted to work the model release since they don't have to provide one. But you want to kind of go from here as a business owner and just reach out nicely to people. I think a lot of times that's the first line of action before you start going into these things. But once you need to go into legal stuff, the terms of use is basically your checklist of how you can, of what you need to do, you know, for certain actions. But so I didn't want to, just don't think you have to be all legal scary about it. Majority of my photography clients, unless they're friends with me, they have no clue that I'm a lawyer. And I like to keep it that way because lawyers, I don't know, when you say you're a lawyer, people go, ah. You know, it's like I always think of Napoleon Dynamite when he's like, gosh, like that's always the reaction I get. So just don't do that to your clients. Don't be legalese. Just try to, you know, talk through them. And if you have to send a takedown notice, try to maybe take a softer route first.
I like that. Start with love first, right? Love on them first.
Yeah, and then if they bite your hand when you reach out in love, then it's time to come see me and we'll do the legal stuff.
Right. I love that. Okay, so let's go back to model release. And I know we've got a slide on this because this one is one that has always sort of been in the back of my mind. And I'm thinking, oh, do I need to do this? Do wedding guests need to sign a model release if I'm going to use it up on the site? And you said not necessarily because there's no expectation of privacy.
Right. And that's the thing. And this is for any images you guys are using on your site needs to have a model release. Now, the reason I say you guys is because I'm assuming that the majority of you listening to this are blogging for business, which is a commercial activity. So you guys have a special set of laws as opposed to someone that just has a personal blog and is taking images and sticking it up there. Because what is the end goal? And this is kind of what I always tell people to think about when they're like, what kind of contract or license do I need? What is the end result of that image? What is it going to be used for? So like with our blogs, we're trying to acquire clients. That's why we're blogging. We're giving our clients a value in this 5 minutes of fame on our blog, but we're also utilizing as a virtual business card and portfolio to acquire new clients, which is commercial activity. So model release, my rule of thumb is that you guys should always shoot. You can shoot with a contract without a model release, but never just shoot with just a model release. Now, model releases are important. Let me define these two, and this is kind of a little bit off tangent, but contracts really they really govern the entire relationship. It's like the payment schedule, how many images you're going to get, or when that in-person sales session is going to be, and those sorts of things. And also kind of like the jurisdictional things we talked about earlier. The model release for us is doing exactly what you and I just said. It's giving the permission to the photographer from the client in a private relationship, giving the photographer for the use of images in commercial activities, such as portfolio purposes, advertisements, and all of this is going to depend on what the language in the model release says, you know, so you don't just say, oh, I have a model release, I'm good to go, it covers all that. It's going to depend on what's included, which I've given you guys a checklist here. My big disclaimer is I don't recommend that you guys write your contracts yourself. We've got a list of recommended people we can send you to. I've got templates on this side, or just I recommend you taking yours to have a local attorney look over. But this is a great starting point checklist for you guys to look at. We need to identify the individual that's in the image, the model. We need to have language that gives us permission for the marketing. We need the permission for the portfolio purposes and permission for alteration of images. Now, this can be as broad as I can cut you all the way out and put you in a whole nother image, or as simple as cropping the photo, you know, cropping half of you, so forth, I'm not going to say that. I would say copyright. That's a whole nother tangent for today.
That's a whole separate show, right?
That's a whole separate semester of shows to discuss. Yes. But the last one is really what is one of the key things we need to have, is that it waives claims or rights to claims arising from the use of photographs. And it's actually funny. I woke up this morning, rolled over because I couldn't go back to sleep, opened up my phone, and an author friend of mine was saying that she had no commercial model release from the models that were now on her book cover. And I wanted to cry. I was like, oh my goodness, what happened? Because potentially those models could come back. While that's a printed version, this could happen for your blog. Those models could come back and try to have claim to compensation for use of, because you're using their face, right, or any body part or so forth. And so these are the main things that I really suggest you guys have in the model release. But jumping back to what I said a little bit ago, where I say you can shoot with a contract without a model release, you can waive a model release, or you can amend the model release depending on how your client's comfort level is. Some people don't want any web presence, so you're not going to put it on your blog. You'd be directly not just violating their privacy and being unethical if they decline the model release, but it's also illegal for you to put on there. Then at the other end of the spectrum, you have clients that are completely fine with contract, model release, put me on the web, I'm good with that. And then there's the people that are in between. Some people may not want it used in marketing, but allow you to use it for portfolio purposes. You know, and if you guys look at that checklist, then, and that will kind of give you some ideas of how you can adjust things. I have set my model releases so that, well, it depends on the type of photography. And if you're in boudoir, you know, someone may want to request that they get final say on the images that are released. That's more of a sensitive topic. Or they want to, like I just said a minute ago, limited to the purposes that we just talked about. So there's a whole bunch of puzzle pieces that go to this. But the end result is that if you are in a private relationship with someone and you intend to use the images to solicit future activities, or you're acting like it, whether it's your intention or not, if you're acting like a business, marketing like a business, then you need to have a model release in place in order to target all these things that we just talked about here.
I think that's really such a key point to think about, that the reason that you have a blog as a photographer is for commercial purposes. It's to perpetuate your business and get more business. And we need to think about all of the aspects of our businesses as being part of the goal of bringing in more compensation and the goal of making money. It really is all a commercial aspect.
And I recommend that you guys do all of this legal blah stuff before the clients ever come in your door for the session. You don't want to bog them down on that day with this legal stuff. I don't do it with my clients. They do everything digitally or at a pre-consultation. Because when they walk in the door, I don't want to have to sit there and spend time, because I only have a limited amount of time with the client before I start losing money. And I don't want to spend the energies and focus on this kind of stuff. So, and that also allows, so say your client decided, hey, I don't really want to be in marketing, but I'm okay in printed portfolio only, which is very common in boudoir type of photography. You need to give them the opportunity to read and understand the contract ahead of time, this model release. So I always tell people to do it ahead, before even the day of.
Yeah, I like that. Get all the housekeeping out of the way, because it's hard enough to come in and be the model if you're not used to being a model. If you're just, you know, a normal
the
person.
The likelihood of them really listening as you're explaining the contract or the model release on the day of, you already don't want to be in front of a camera. It's very scary. Their mind is going to be more concerned about, okay, I got to suck it in, put my chin out. You know what I mean? Like they're all going to be worried about their problem areas or how their hair looks or the kids are running all around all crazy. That'd be me. We have 5. So like, it's always crazy. And, but they're going to be focused on that. And so really in order to serve your clients properly and protect your blog properly, you need to do the model release with these points and do it ahead of time.
I love that. All right. What's the next thing people need to know about blogging legally?
Yeah, I just want to touch one thing before we move on to email captures. If you guys are doing these supplementing of content, if you are using music, inspirational quotes, make sure that because we don't fall in fair use laws when we are commercial, like we've already kind of discussed here, make sure that you have a right license or permission, and you're also citing sources. Citing is not just enough by itself. You have to look at the item that you're using. Some quotes, some designs are, you don't have, they're without copyright restrictions, so you're okay, but always do your due diligence, do your research, and make sure you keep it updated. But just know that citing is not enough. Make sure you're purchasing the appropriate license if you're using music for slideshows. $1.99 off of iTunes is not a commercial license. Look at me, I'm getting on my soapbox about that because that drives me crazy. We wouldn't want someone to pay us $1.99 when we charge $120, $300 for a digital image.
Right.
For, you know what I mean? Like, so the license demands a more amount. That was a bad example, but you guys get what I'm saying.
Right.
So that's a little tangent. So let's move on to email captures because I really want to try to move into this portion because I feel like email lists and email captures are a huge part of your marketing business. And so your blog is essentially the vehicle to get you guys email captures. So let me explain exactly what I mean by that. Your client list is gold, and if you're not using it, you're a fool. So here's another tweetable for you guys to put out there. So fool's gold is called that for a reason. For years and years, and it still happens today, think about how much data is sold. I know when I go and open up a new bank account or sign up my new business, I'm going to get 500 calls, 500 emails, and 500 people coming in my front door trying to sell things to me. Client lists are sold. I'm not telling you to do that. I'm giving you an example here. The reason that that's such a profitable business is because client lists are gold. And as photographers, we have 2 lists in our hands without realizing it. So I'm going to walk you guys through why to use it and also the legalities of it. So email lists, we went with email lists first. So email lists are essentially the information you guys already are sitting on right now. You're sitting on a gold mine. Is anybody that has come to inquire through your website, is any clients that you've had, you have their contact information. And this is where we're going to tie back into the website things, the terms of service and the privacy policy that we talked about earlier. But we want to take all information that we get to reach back out to our clients for future impact of marketing. You're not just a one and done when it comes to photography marketing. Even if you're a wedding photographer and you feel like, oh, that's a one-time thing, or newborn photographer, you never know if later on you're going to need to reach out to them for something. You may have a business partnership that you want to introduce to them, or maybe, hey, you've decided, well, I was doing weddings for a bit and now I'm going to add on anniversary sessions. If you have to sit and go back and dig up all your old client emails, or you don't, you're wasting your time and you're wasting money that you're already sitting on. You have a resource of people without having to expend any more money and any more energy in order to reach out to. Mm-hmm. So the email lists come in 2 ways. People that submit through your contact form on your website and the clients that you already have. Now, my recommendation for this is that you guys should be, and this is super huge. In my online course, I talk about this till I'm blue in the face, and I think my students are tired of me talking about it because it's so pivotal with your blog paired with your email blast that you're going to send out, whether it's new promotions or just saying, hey, from these 2 lists are going to be able to get you in front of them and make more money because you're getting most out of one client or one inquiry as opposed to seeking out 5 or 10 different clients or inquiries. And if you guys have the proper terms of use and the privacy policy on your site in place, you're able to immediately add them to the email contact list in America. But it is always best to ask if they want to be added. I did give an example. If you look at, I think I have the slide in here. Oh yeah, it's the next slide. This is a local photographer to here. On the contact form, it has all this information that she needs to, that inquiry needs to submit. Then at the bottom, it says sign up for our newsletter. yes, please, or no, thanks. And so you're asking the inquiry to make a decision. Do I want to be contacted in the future or not? Technically, she doesn't have to have this here, because if it's in my terms of use and privacy policy on the site, I can contact them. That's in mine. That's a huge thing. If you visit my site, I want to be able to contact you if there's some kind of issue, maybe with a purchase, or I want to be able to reach out to you, but I have to have that consent in order to do it. And that's for America. But Danielle, in this example, takes it a step further and has her clients say yes or no. And I'm just going to take a stab here. And I'm assuming that the majority of her say yes. I had this on my site as well, and I hardly have anybody ever say no, because they want to know what's coming. If I've already hooked them into me and sold them on me, they want to know what's coming down the pipeline.
Right. And that's great, that they don't have to go searching for it either.
You know, you don't have to have them submit to another place. Yeah, it's all right there. All that information is there. Now, the big thing is you have to be careful of what's called the Can-Spam Act law for America. We just have to have permission. They just have to utilize the site and agree to the terms, and we can send to them. Now, with the laws under that require, there's a way for them to be able to unsubscribe, and there's other laws that go along with it. The big one is an unsubscribe. So you can't just copy it over into Gmail and send them an email if you're doing a newsletter blast, so to speak, like using MailChimp and those sorts of things. The good thing using large programs like that, they provide that unsubscribe button, so you're in compliance with law. And there's a couple other requirements as well. But the good thing is you don't have to use a newsletter system. If they have agreed for you to contact them through the site, you can email them. That's kind of the whole point in submitting a contact inquiry, so you'll email me back. But you want to make sure you're clear with people what's going to happen to the private information. Now, one of the things, and this is why I reserve privacy policy to here, like I just talked about a little bit ago, our stuff gets sold daily, all the time, scraped list. I do not recommend that you guys ever put that in your privacy policy, that you reserve the right to sell it. Do what you want, it's your business, but I'm just telling you, I'd be less likely to engage with a photographer who's going to potentially sell my private information. That's not to say I don't engage in businesses all the time that sell my stuff. Sure, but when it comes to a direct personal portrait situation like this, I want to keep it as private and personal as possible. That's kind of the whole idea of being a personal portrait photographer, or whatever genre of photographer that you guys are in. So the first thing is email list. I wanted to make a note on that. Other country laws do require what's called a double opt-in if you're using a newsletter system. So like Canada requires that when you sign up, they will send you a form and you have to click the link to opt in. In America, we just submit, which I'm going to show you guys in a second, and you're on the list. We don't have to do any further clicks. You can require your people to do this to confirm their addresses are good, like I'm going to talk about in a second, but you don't have to. In Canada, you guys have to do that in order to stay compliant. It's called a double opt-in. So that's the buzz phrase when you guys go to check out like newsletter systems and so forth. So that's email lists from your clients and your contact inquiries. Now, the next one is what I called opt-ins. These are people that haven't pulled the gun to contact you. They're not a client. These are people that come by your blog who may potentially be interested in who you are and what you offer. A lot of times people just want to kind of see what's coming down the pipeline. They want to check out what your work is like. And so they will do what's called opting in. I've got a couple of different examples I'm going to show you guys in a second. There's a couple different ways that you can go about getting this contact information. Simply having a subscribe form on your site. Right there, it just says, hey, do you want to keep updated with our newsletter? Yes, no, they submit their information or they don't. The other option is to create what is called, the buzz term is lead magnet. I call it an educational or promotional item. I see a lot of great local photographers around here who utilize like a studio credit or a free item that they'll receive when they are converted into a client by signing up for the email, because they know how important email marketing is. So you can do these subscribe or opt-in forms simply giving nothing, or you can send them an educational item. Could be like for brides, the top 20 wedding vendors in Washington, D.C. area. And that's a whole nother shoot off and talking about business partnerships. But right there, you're also providing a value to a potential client, because you want to motivate people to provide their contact information. And another thing is you want to have your terms of service and the privacy policy nearby. I'm going to show you guys the examples, 3 different kind of ways that you guys can do it. And also make sure you're abiding by the Can-Spam Act laws that I kind of just already mentioned. Make sure there's a subscribe button if you're utilizing like MailChimp or MadMimi. You have to have a physical address on there and so forth. So let's go ahead and show them the 3 different opt-in items. The next one is the same Danielle that I showed with the contact form. She just has a sidebar that says sign up for our newsletter. And if you look at the bottom of the screen, it says we respect your privacy, and it goes into link her privacy policy. So that is directly next to the opt-in form. Not required because you have it on the site elsewhere, but it provides a little buyer confidence and puts confidence in the person that's opting into your site. So all of this stuff is not just legal. It's what you can do to help your potential clients feel as comfortable and confident about you as possible. And so that's one way to do it. The next one is Caitlin James. Many of you guys know her. Her site is a pop-up that she's got here. And like I said, we don't have to put the privacy policy there. We simply just have put your name and your email address and join her newsletter. And then the last kind of way that you can do it, and this is mine. I use an entire landing page for a free photography contract download that I have. I link my terms and conditions right there because I am going to be contacting them. I know that that's a really vital part to my business marketing plan. And I also got a couple of testimonials at the bottom that we're going to move into here in just a second. So that just gives you a little framework of how to utilize that client list that you're sitting on. You want to protect it. Please don't sell it. I mean, you know, if that's your thing, for me, it just feels wrong. I wouldn't want my photographer to do it. Protect it as much as you can. Look what's in your privacy policy and your terms, and try to inspire confidence when you're capturing this information outside of just coming from your clients, letting them know what you're going to do with their information, and making sure that you adhere to that. Because if you don't adhere to, it's a contract, essentially, the privacy policy on your site. If you violate that, that gives the individual that you've sold that or exposed, it doesn't have to be sold, it can be exposed, client information, they could be in big trouble.
Right. I love the idea of using this, right? Because I think we're all sitting on this list that we're not using, and we're not making it part of our workflow and part of our marketing. And if you're in the chat, we would love to know, what are you using to send out newsletters? Like, raise your hand if you're actually are sending out a newsletter and you're using your email list. And then we'd just be curious to know, what are you using? Are you using MailChimp or Mad Mimi or Create Send? What kind of newsletter are you sending out there? So the next section that we wanted to go into after email capture is
client testimonials and social proof. And one thing I should have said at the very beginning, these 3 things that we've talked about, the website things, the email capture, and the client testimonials and social proof, are the very things that I was able to use to bootstrap multiple of my businesses from the very beginning on a very low budget for a very high return. That sounds so salesy, but it's true. Because I'm not trying to sell you anything. I'm just telling you guys how I did it. Because I was in law school and I was doing photography to make money at that point. We didn't have money to spend. So these things, if you're thinking, oh, I don't have all the money to do this, MailChimp is free up to a certain amount of contacts, and it sends emails for you. Your hosting may be like $6.99 a year, and whatever blog setup that you guys try to use. All of your client lists are free. They're handing you their private information and saying you can use it. Make sure you're using it. But this next step, this is often the key thing that I see people are like, oh, that's nice to have, that's fun, but they don't actually go after and utilize it. And it's client testimonials and social proof. A lot of you are like, oh, I've got testimonials, I'm good to go. But there's legalities that are attached to it. And if you're a senior photographer, this is kind of very specific. Or if you have a client referral program, this is a big thing that I want you guys to hone in on. So we've got another tweetable. Social proof is the ace in your sleeve, but don't let it be a dagger used against you. Man, I was all witty last night when I was doing
these are great. I love these tweetables. That's awesome.
But it is. Social proof is the ace in the sleeve. The reason I say that is because a lot of people out there are not using it. A lot of people aren't using their email list either, but a lot of people get these pats on their back in their email from their clients, and they go on their merry way. They close it out. They may show their on Instagram once, or they show their husband and they're so excited, but they don't do anything with it. So we want to make sure that we use it, but we want to make sure we use it properly so it's not used against us, because there are laws by Federal Trade Commission that requires that we have certain disclosures. So let's jump right in. Testimonials. Testimonials, this isn't really a checklist of what a testimonial needs to include. This is more of how you guys can utilize it. And so when I say testimonials, this is simply someone saying, Rachel is the best photographer I've ever had. Well, I'd hope it'd be a little bit more eloquent than that, but that's simply what I'm trying to get across. Any of the happy things that I receive from my clients that are going to influence a potential client, a potential inquiry in order to gain, to come on with in business with me is what is testimonial, and it's social proof because it's coming from another person. I want you guys to think, where do you go these days when you need a recommendation on things? I don't go to Yelp.
Amazon.com. Read the reviews.
But I mean, when you're looking for services, and this is what, we're providing products, but services, we typically go to our friends because we value what they think. And that's where testimonials are so important, and that social proof is so important. Don't quote me on this statistic, but I read, I think it was in Entrepreneur Magazine recently, and it was about, they said people are 80% more likely to purchase or book, engage, hire you if there is paired social proof on your site. 80%. You cannot get that return in their marketing. I'm going to have to look that up. I may have to adjust that, but I'm pretty positive it was over 75% because I was like, wow, that's incredible. So testimonials, we need to, in order to do them, we need to identify who to solicit from. Well, you guys just spent your time compiling your client list so you could email them. Right there is your entire list. Boom. If you didn't listen to anything else I said, you're afraid of newsletter marketing, that entire list that you just compiled, if you should hopefully have a spreadsheet or a database such as MailChimp somewhere. I'm not sponsored by MailChimp, by the way. I just know that they're really user friendly and they're really good. And that's the only one I can think of right now. But you've got all their information right there. It's one click to email them and to solicit, I hate that term, but solicit a testimonial from them. So you want to identify who they are, solicit and engage the clients for feedback. You've already gotten their permission to contact them. We need to be using it. And then we want to use it in online marketing. I suggest you guys pair the testimonials with the images because it's also the client's more likely to reshare it because then they're on the web again for you, and keep your testimonials fresh. So those are the key ways to use it. But there's legal tidbits along this line that you guys don't see. Now, if you are a senior photographer and you have like a senior rep program, or you will tell your clients, hey, I will give you a $25 gift card if you submit a testimonial, you need to be disclosing that that individual received compensation for that testimonial, which is kind of a bummer when you have a nice little image and a testimonial, then you got to put a little disclaimer at the bottom. Like, it just feels like it just takes it away. It's no fun legal stuff. The whole idea with that is people reading it, you gotta think to yourself, would the people reading it, would their minds change about me as a business owner if they knew that Sheila was paid $25 Starbucks card to give this testimonial? Maybe, because then she has a reason to maybe inflate or exaggerate her testimonial and may not be relatively accurate so that she can get that Starbucks gift card. So for me, what I really recommend, because that's, and this probably is not heavily policed. I think it is when you become a larger fish in the ocean, but you don't want to test it. You don't want it to come back on you. Senior rep programs are notorious for this. I see this all the time, and I'm not picking on you guys. I say this because I love you and I want you to run your programs correctly. But if you get testimonials out of that because they're going to receive something in return, has to be disclosed. What I try to look at it two ways. Okay, so I want to solicit information from this awesome client list that I've compiled because Rachel told me to. And so I want to reach out to them, but I want to incentivize them in order to submit feedback. How do I do that? You can take a two different approach, and this is a little bit extra. You can either ask for feedback or you can ask for testimonials. If I incentivize someone to give me feedback that I'm going to use internally in my business, I'm going to give them a $25 gift card or whatever. I don't have to disclose that to anybody because that image is not being used in any social proof or outside. But if I am putting that testimonial that Rachel is the most awesomest photographer ever, I have to disclose. So I recommend that just don't offer them anything. Just ask them, say, hey. And the thing is too, you're getting more of an organic recommendation at that point. It's going to be more heartfelt, and you're going to be able to see that your clients really mean it and they're not just doing it for the goods. And
people love to praise other people. I think they love to say, I love my wedding images. They are wonderful and I love looking back on them, or I love our anniversary photos, or I adore my daughter's senior photos. I think they want to be able to tell you those things. And sometimes when we don't ask for them, they don't realize that they can, and that we're open to hearing it, or even opening to hearing a little criticism now and again.
Well, and we're so busy these days. Everyone is so go, 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 and connected with this and connected with that. I may think you're phenomenal, but if I don't tweet about a store before I get out of the parking lot or right way, or I'm not asked, I'm probably going to forget about it by the time I get home. And that's nothing against the awesome service that I received or, you know, the product and the images. It's just a fact of life. And so we have to, and I hate, this sounds demeaning, but we have to handhold our clients and tell them what we want. From the very beginning of the process, that's our job of educating, informing them of, and doing all these legal supports for them all the way to the end. So it doesn't just drop off when you deliver the products. You need to do follow-ups. You need to do these email follow-ups, stay in front of them, and also get the testimonials. Get as much as you can out of one client as possible. And one thing I also want to just throw in a little tax tidbit before I show you guys kind of the examples of how to use the testimonials is that if you end up and senior reps, if you end in client rep programs, if you give them over $600 in a calendar year for United States business, you have to end up remitting the client a 1099, which isn't a bad thing of itself. It's actually kind of good if you get over that $600 mark, because that's $600 less that you as a business owner have to be taxed upon. But it just is one more thing you have to do. Are you going to remit the 1099 to them? Are you going to pay a CPA? Was it really worth it? You know, and that's something you have to weigh. You probably won't be given $600 for a testimonial, but just to keep in mind, if you give one individual compensation within a calendar year that reaches that threshold, and that could tip you.
And that's the same for your second shooters too. You know, for those that are wedding photographers, if you have the same second shooter and you pay them more than $600 in that calendar year, you have to do that 1099.
Which is great, because if you pay them by PayPal, PayPal does it for you. And a lot of people don't realize that. Yeah, and that's a new law as 2-3 years ago. They remit it for you. So that's a nice little tidbit.
You know, I should start using that, because that is very convenient. That's awesome. So before we real quickly jump into how we can use these testimonials, if you're blogging and say someone sends you something like, say Shoot Stack was to send you a shoot sack and you used it and you wrote a blog about it, you also on your end, you have to disclose that you received something, correct?
Correct. Company. Oh, and I love Shoot Stack. Keats, the owner of it, I absolutely love her, and her product is amazing. I have like 3. Me too. I wish she would send me one, because I would totally disclose that I received one. So Keats, if you're listening, but anytime it's compensation in any manner. It's called a cession to wealth. That's kind of the tax term. And so anytime you receive something, whether it's a gift card, a product, or cash, you need to disclose it. Like I do reviews on my site, and I will say, you know, I wasn't compensated for this, but, you know, I did receive maybe a copy of like the blog stomp software that shows me how to blog easily. Because like they gave me for free to try it out. And so it just has to be simple like that. It doesn't have to be crazy legal information. It's just so that because again, it's kind of that whole idea with testimonials. Would someone's perspective potentially be changed or, you know, tweaked a little bit if they found out that you were receiving compensation for it? Because probably if I get something for free, I'm probably going to talk it up really good.
Right.
But I tell people if because I get solicitations all the time, and I only accept things that I actually use, because it's really important integrity thing for my business. And I recommend that too. If you guys are getting business partnerships in the local area and you're blogging about it, make sure you're only doing businesses you actually endorse and go to and utilize. And it just makes it it's a little easier pill for me to swallow. And then I use the product too. I love it.
Yeah.
And
so just keep in mind that those testimonials, that goes both ways. You know, if you're giving something to someone for one, or someone is giving something to you. So what are some ways that we can be using these testimonials for our photography businesses?
Oh my gosh, how can we not? I mean, putting it in your newsletter list, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest. And actually Pinterest is an amazing one, because I think a lot of people really underestimate the value of Pinterest. I actually just got into a Pinterest course. It's called 30 Days of Pinterest Dominance with Stacy over at Color Veil. And it grew my traffic in 53% in 2 days, not even lying. And and I was using testimonials, and I was like, this is incredible. I mean, 53% off of 2 tips in 2 days. And I also utilized Tailwind app. It's a paid app, but it's super awesome because I can schedule pins to when I know that my potential client is going to be online. Like for my glamour ladies, I know they are working women, so they're not going to be, hopefully, on Pinterest during the day. And so I set my schedule to do the evenings. But that's a key place that I put testimonials, is that they're pinned, used on all social media platforms, email list. utilize it when in consultations, because social proof should not just be confined to your blog and online. If you've got the testimonial, get the ground out of it as much as you can. Utilize it everywhere, short of like tattooing it on your forehead, business cards, like I said, in the consultation, maybe a client guide that you provide. You can use the same testimonial and just change out the image across the board and it won't look the same.
Mm-hmm.
And it's showing your work, it's showcasing your work again.
I love that idea that there are so many places to use this. You're not just getting it for one thing. You can use it over and over again. And Pinterest is certainly not one that I had really thought about. It's amazing.
It's incredible.
Pinterest is like exploded to the point where people use it as a search engine, which is just, it's awesome. But you can find so much. I never look in a cookbook anymore. I always just go straight to Pinterest when I want to cook something.
Well, and that's the funny thing is that you need to look for areas where some people may be using testimonials. So look for areas where a lot of people are not putting testimonials, but where your target client is. Where are they? Well, Pinterest is an ideal one for many of us if our ideal client is on Pinterest. But you're just using testimonials as opposed to the top 10 ways to get ready for your wedding day. There's 5 bazillion pins of that out there. Right. But if they see a testimonial and see that you're local, they'll go, oh.
Yeah,
they're more like, it's just an eye catcher. You got to see what can you do that's differently with the basic free resource that you've got.
Right. That makes you stand out from the crowd. I love that. Yep. So one other question that I had, and I'm not sure that we actually have a slide for this, but we touched just a little bit on copyright and knowing that like that's a whole other episode. But,
yes.
But a lot of photographers these days are submitting their images to other blogs. They're submitting to Style Me Pretty, or they're submitting to the Black Tie Bride. And just quickly, can you touch upon, Rachel, when we do that, when we put our images out for someone else to actually blog and post up, are we giving away any of those copyright protections?
A lot of it really depends. I would like to say no off the bat, but a lot of it depends on what are the terms of their site. What is the user submission information that we talked about at the very beginning of this? What does it state? There may even be a submission contract that you submit to. Maybe you're a guest blogger. All those sorts of things you have to look at and read. Please don't just fill out and just sign the line and be like, oh, Gray Lakes Baby is going to feature me perhaps. Well, you need to read also, not just because you may be giving up copyright, but there may be something there that violates your agreement with your clients. And it's on you if something occurs, if something happens. Maybe your model release didn't cover putting it onto other feature sites like this. Maybe they had asked you for a restricted one, or it's being used in a specific commercial manner that is for them. It's furthering, those sites are monetized. They're making money. They're blogging, not for the goodness of their heart. So is a client going to feel good if they didn't give the permissions for you to submit for someone else to make money off their faces? That's something you have to think about. And you have to look at what's included in your contracts, what's included in what you're agreeing to. And a lot of times, I would like to say majority of these sites aren't taking copyright, but I haven't looked at everyone's stuff, so I can't say that. I just know that anytime someone submits to me, I would never want to take their copyright. That is their property. Whole nother discussion for another day. I would want what's called a license of use.
Okay. But I think this is such a great example of how this gets layered really quickly. There are a lot of pieces to this onion, and it starts with you having, the terms of use on your site, but then thinking about what the terms of use is on another site that you submit to, and protecting yourselves and also protecting your clients and being really upfront with them, before they get to the session, and kind of dealing with all the legal housekeeping so that it's taken care of and everyone has an expectation of what may or may not happen with their images.
Well, and that's the thing, is that it's all about education. That's what my entire motive with the TheLawTog is, not just protect you guys, but to give you tools to educate your clients, because they're not doing this every day. The responsibility is on you. You can't expect them to do it for you. Many of them may be lawyers and may try, but you need to do what's best for you and what's legal. And so I hope that these 3 tips really help, because these are really key, especially if you're newer in business. These are something y'all can go out and do now. And hopefully get to going.
Yeah, this has been awesome. I can't believe we filled like an hour just like that. There's so much, and I hope that you all do the tweetables and get those posted up to Twitter, because Rachel is going to choose 3 lucky winners that are going to receive $150 to go and spend at thelawtog.com. And if you missed those, you can go back through the show. It'll be posted up on YouTube, but you can also find it at showateer.com/live. And there you can find all of our episodes, but go and check out thelawtog.com. Rachel's got amazing information there. And then also bloglegally.com is another resource for information. And you're going to join us out here in Arizona, where it's still very warm. Fall has not quite hit here. It's like 96 degrees and we're having pool parties. And so you're going to be out here for Show It United and be talking about sort of the legal ins and outs of running a business, because while it's not the most fun part, it really is a foundational part to having a solid business. And we need to treat our businesses with that sort of respect and put the energy and the effort in there so that we can go and be creative and feel that we're protected and our clients are protected.
I always tell people, run your business like your mama is watching. Because would she be happy with what you're doing if she knew it was illegal?
Yes, your mom would be like, let's sit down and talk about this. Yeah, we'll talk soon. And Mom, if you're watching, I love you. Welcome home. Mom was on vacation last week, so she didn't get to watch. So we're going to take a break next week from Show It Live, since we will be at United. But the following week, we are going to have Andrew Smith. Andrew is a wedding photographer from the East Coast, and he's going to come on and talk about couples posing, which is like the opposite of talking about the legal ins and outs of blogging your business. But it's another foundational thing that is so important to having a successful business. Andrew's actually going to be leading a styled shoot. I can't get that out. Lots of S's. Andrew's going to lead a styled shoot at United next week on this very topic. And then he's going to come and join us on the show the week after United to talk about this. Again, you can find all of our episodes at showateer.com/live. Rachel, thank you so much for being here. And I can't wait to hug you in like 5 days.
I know. I'm excited. I guess I need to start packing.
Yeah, right? I mean, I need to start washing my clothes so I can start packing them, even though it gets in the same town where I live. I'm going to still have to pack a suitcase.
Oh, but exciting. I can't wait to be there with you guys.
Very, very exciting. Thank you so much for everyone who tuned in. Have a wonderful day, and we will see you in 2 weeks here at Show It Live.